scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Ha! I have victored over my friend, disembodied arm. And now we're going to talk about Shakespeare, specifically Macbeth. We're going to talk about Act 2, Scene 1. This scene starts out with Banquo and Fleance, who are wandering around outside the castle in the dark. I don't really know why. Banquo says, "How goes the night, boy?" Fleance, "The moon is down. I have not heard the clock. She goes down at 12? I take it 'tis later, sir." Riveting conversation, really. They're just talking about when the moon goes down and whether they've heard the clock chime. Thank goodness we have Banquo and Fleance to discuss these heavy matters. And then Banquo says, "Hold, take my sword," and he gives his sword to Fleance. And we don't really know why. "There's husbandry in heaven, their candles are all out. Take thee that too." And presumably he hands him something else, but it doesn't actually say what it is, so it could be anything. You could hand him his hat, or his cloak, or his boot, we don't know. "A heavy summons lies like lead upon me, and yet I would not sleep. Merciful powers restrain me in the cursed thoughts that nature gives way to repose." So he's kind of having bad dreams. This is the first useful thing he said. He's got an ominous sense, like maybe his best friend is going to kill the king. And then they hear a noise, and Banquo wants his sword right back. "Give me my sword, who's there?" So he's like, "Here's my sword." Now give it back. And it's Macbeth, and he says, "A friend." And they're like, "Why aren't you in bed yet?" He's like, "Why aren't you in bed yet?" And then Banquo gives Macbeth a diamond to give to Lady Macbeth. So nice of him. Nice little gift. Banquo says, "I dreamt last night of the 3 weird sisters. To you they have showed the truth." So he's like, "I'm dreaming about the witches, and everything they say seems to be coming true, about you anyway." And Macbeth's like, "Huh, I think not of them. Yet when we can entreat an hour to serve, we would spend it in some words upon that business, if you would grant me the time." So, I don't think about them at all. What weird sisters? But, if we have time later, we should talk about them. Maybe. "At your kindest leisure," says Banquo. "Yeah, whenever you want, buddy." And Macbeth says, "If you shall cleave to my consent when 'tis, it shall make honor for you. Stick with me, buddy. You and me, we're besties. So I lose none in seeking to augment it, but still keep my bosom franchise and legions clear. I shall be counseled." I'm with you, bro. And then they say goodnight to each other, and Banquo and Fleance leave. And there's also apparently a servant has been on stage this entire time, because Macbeth suddenly talks to it. Him, her, it. So again, servants on stage all the time. The servants know everything. It's a good thing these servants aren't really chatty. "Go bid my mistress, when my drink is ready, she strike upon the bell. Get thee to bed." Away you go, servant. Now we get one of Macbeth's most famous speeches, which is the dagger speech, which I'm going to read for you in all of its glory, so gird your loins. I'm also going to try to explain it a little bit as I go. "Is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle toward my hand? Come, let me clutch at thee. I have thee not, yet I see thee still. Art thou not, fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain?" Stop there. He's talking to an invisible dagger, which he is questioning himself seeing. I've seen this played a lot of ways. Sometimes he's actually talking to an invisible dagger. Sometimes he's got his own dagger and he's talking to that, and he's not sure. He's like, "This is my own dagger, but I'm really not sure if I want to do this," because I think this kind of stems a lot from his insecurity about killing the king. "I see thee yet, in form as palpable as that which now I draw. his own dagger. It says he draws his own dagger, but a lot of times actors will already have it, like I said. Thou marshallest me in the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes are made fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dudgeon gouts of blood, which was not so before. There's no such thing. It is the bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. Now o'er the half-world nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtain sleep. Witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings, and withered murder, alarmed at his sentinel, the wolf, whose howl his watch, thus with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin ravishing strides toward his design, moves like a ghost. It's a lot of stuff, but it's mostly just Macbeth feeling really insecure. And he says that the dagger that he's seeing is covered in blood, and he's worried about witchcraft, and Hecate, who is like the god of the witches. And wolves. By his sentinel the wolf, whose howls the watch. So the wolf howls the watch. This is interesting. This is interesting. It seems like just a tiny little line, but wolves are kind of significant in many cultures, including the Celtic culture. In Norse culture, wolves are believed to often bring you to the afterlife. And also in Native American culture, wolves are seen as the spirit of passing on to the next life and acceptance of the next life. And so there's a lot of stuff going on in various cultures about the wolf, and he has often a lot to do with death. He's sort of a harbinger of death. So he actually has a big part, even though he's just one little word. Thou sure and firm set earth, hear not my steps, which way they walk. For fear thy very stones prate my whereabouts, and make my present horror from the time, which now suits with it. Whiles I threat he lives, words in the heat of deeds to cold breath gives. And then a bell rings. And he's basically, previously this was just entreating the earth to make his footsteps be silent as possible. And then the bell that he said for his wife to ring when his drink is ready rings. I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell. Pretty self-explanatory there. Let's talk about some of Shakespeare's word usage. I notice a lot of times, so sometimes I work with theater students, that for some reason people have a hard time with the way Shakespeare shortens some of his words. He does this so they fit into iambic pentameter, which we'll probably talk about later, but we're not going to discuss right now. Let's see, one of the examples in the scene we just did is when Fleon says, I take it 'tis later, sir. Now you can see Shakespeare cuts off parts of words and puts an apostrophe there. And sometimes people who are not used to reading Shakespeare have trouble understanding what he means, but really, you can almost say the regular word that goes there if you're actually speaking it, and it works pretty well. Like instead of I take it, you can say I take it. I take it 'tis later, sir. Because that's all that is. He's just chopping letters off of words. He's not inventing new words in this instance. He's just chopping letters off. I had another one here. Here's another one. Mine eyes are made fools of the other senses. O the is actually of the. So when you're doing it, you just kind of have to look at the context and see where the word would probably fit and what it would probably be, because all he's doing is chopping letters off to make it fit with the meter that he wants to use. Now, or. He likes to use or, which means over. That one's pretty common. You see that one a lot. And T by itself a lot. He also likes to put T by itself and TH by itself, which is the. He doesn't like to use the full word the very often. Ever. Martialist, that's another one that he just kind of put together. Basically means marshals, but that wouldn't work with his meter, so he had to say martialist. Offerings, just had to cut out a letter. So you get the picture. So now when you're reading Shakespeare, you don't have to wonder, what the heck is this word? And you don't have to pronounce it in any weird way. If you can figure out what word it's supposed to be, you can just say it, the way it's supposed to be if you're reciting the Shakespeare. Unless you're really trying to recite it in the iambic pentameter. I can't speak. Pretty simple. All right. This has been a PC Patient Zero production.